The sun dipped low behind the rolling hills as the annual Grimesville Carnival burst to life. Lanterns strung between quaint wooden stalls flickered like fireflies, casting a warm glow over the lively crowds. Daniel Thompson stood at the edge of the fairground, his hands shoved deep into his pockets. His 8-year-old daughter, Lily, tugged at his sleeve, her eyes sparkling with excitement. "Come on, Dad, we're going to miss the puppet show," she exclaimed. Daniel forced a smile, the weight of the past year heavy on his shoulders. Since his wife's passing, he'd struggled to keep the darkness at bay, but tonight was for Lily. "All right, sweetheart. Lead the way," he said, letting her pull him into the throng of cheerful faces. Yet, beneath the laughter and music, a strange unease prickled at the back of his mind. As they weaved through the maze of attractions, a peculiar clown caught Daniel's eye. Dressed in vintage attire, a faded red tailcoat and oversized polka-dot trousers, the clown balanced on stilts, handing out balloons to giggling children. His face was painted a stark white, with a crimson smile that stretched unnaturally wide. But it was his eyes that unsettled Daniel. They were unnervingly dark, devoid of the joy one would expect. Lily noticed him too. "Look, Dad, can I get a balloon?" Before he could protest, she darted towards the clown. Daniel hurried after her, his pulse quickening. The clown bent down, extending a long, gloved hand to offer Lily a balloon shaped like a twisting serpent. "For you," he whispered, his voice raspy. Daniel reached them just in time to hear the clown add softly, "Keep an eye on the shadows tonight." The festivities wore on, but the clown's words lingered in Daniel's mind. The air grew thick, and a fog rolled in, unusual for this time of year. The merry-go-round music warped, slowing to a haunting melody. Suddenly, the lights flickered, and a collective gasp rose from the crowd as the Ferris wheel jolted to a stop. High above, carriages swayed precariously, the silhouettes of passengers frantic against the dimming sky. Panic spread like wildfire. Parents clutched their children, and vendors hastily closed up shop. Amidst the chaos, Daniel realized Lily was no longer by his side. Fear tightened his chest. "Lily!" he shouted, pushing through the frenzied masses. The fog thickened, obscuring his view. Then, faintly, he heard her voice, soft, trembling, calling for him from somewhere beyond the carnival bounds. Desperate, Daniel stumbled into the dense woods bordering the fairground. The towering trees twisted into grotesque shapes, their branches clawing at the sky. "Lily!" he yelled, his voice swallowed by the oppressive darkness. Ahead, a faint glow beckoned. He followed it to a clearing where the old oak stood, a tree as ancient as the town itself, rumored to be a site of dark rituals long forgotten. Beneath its gnarled branches stood the clown, his grin now a sinister sneer. Lily was beside him, her eyes wide with fear. "Let her go," Daniel demanded, stepping forward. The clown's form began to contort, limbs elongating, face melting into a shadowy abyss. "You should have heeded the warnings," the entity hissed. "The time has come for Grimesville to pay its debt." From the shadows, ghostly figures emerged, echoes of the past, victims claimed by the very same evil that now threatened his daughter. Daniel's mind raced. Legends spoke of an ancient curse, a malevolent force bound to the land, awakening every century to wreak havoc. The clown was merely its vessel. Summoning his courage, Daniel recalled the tales his grandmother used to tell, a way to vanquish the darkness. He searched the ground frantically and grabbed a shard of mirrored glass from a broken funhouse attraction. "Truth reveals all," he muttered, stepping between the entity and Lily. Holding up the mirror, he directed it towards the creature. The reflection caused the shadow to recoil, its form flickering. The anguished screams of countless souls pierced the air as the apparition writhed under its own gaze. Seizing the moment, Daniel snatched Lily's hand. "Run!" he urged. They tore through the woods, the howls of the enraged entity echoing behind them. Bursting back into the carnival grounds, they found the townspeople huddled together, confusion etched on their faces. Old Mrs. Whitaker, the town historian, stepped forward, clutching an antiquated book. "You saw it, didn't you?" she whispered. Daniel nodded, breathless. "The curse is real," she continued. "But there's a ritual, a way to bind it once more." With no time to waste, the townsfolk gathered what they could. Salt from the pretzel stands, lanterns from the game booths, and together they formed a circle around the perimeter of the carnival. Mrs. Whitaker began to chant in a forgotten tongue, each syllable strengthening the barrier against the encroaching darkness. The ground trembled as the entity approached, now towering over the tallest tents, its form a mass of swirling shadows studded with glinting eyes and gnashing teeth. It slammed against the invisible barrier, roaring in fury. The force of its attack sent shockwaves through the air, knocking several people off their feet. Daniel held Lily close, shielding her with his body. "Stay strong," Mrs. Whitaker cried out, her voice straining. The collective will of the townspeople began to falter under the relentless onslaught. Seeing their resolve waver, Daniel stood tall. "We can do this," he shouted. "Together." His words reignited their courage. Hand in hand, they reinforced the circle, their unified chants pushing back against the darkness. With a final, deafening shriek, the entity began to fracture, shards of shadow spiraling upwards until it exploded into nothingness. Silence settled over the carnival. The fog dissipated, and the stars reappeared in the night sky. Exhausted but alive, the townspeople embraced one another, a profound sense of relief washing over them. Lily looked up at her father, her eyes reflecting both fear and admiration. "You were so brave," she whispered. He smiled softly, brushing a strand of hair from her face. "So were you, my little warrior." Mrs. Whitaker approached them, her face lined with both sorrow and hope. "The curse is contained for now," she said, "but we must remain vigilant. Evil like that never truly disappears." In the days that followed, the town of Grimesville began to heal. The carnival was dismantled, the grounds left to rest under the careful watch of the townsfolk. Daniel found himself changed by the ordeal. The haunting grief that had shadowed him since his wife's death seemed to lighten, replaced by a newfound purpose. He joined the town council, determined to protect his community and, most importantly, Lily. One evening, as the two sat on their porch watching the sunset, Lily rested her head on his shoulder. "Do you think it will ever come back?" she asked softly. Daniel wrapped an arm around her. "If it does, we'll be ready. Together." She nodded thoughtfully. "I think Mom would be proud of us." A gentle breeze rustled the leaves, and Daniel felt a peaceful presence settling around them. "I believe she already is," he whispered, holding his daughter close as the last light of day faded into a serene twilight.